So, good evening. We'll begin with the study circle. And before we delve into the words, taking a few moments to ingather our consciousness with the help of the mantra, with the focus on our breath, whatever works for us, to bring ourselves fully here, be fully here in the next few moments. Thank you. Thank you. I had the long time. Um, Aditi,
It took me. Thank you.
right. So just to tell you, while you were away, we had started this reflection on a compilation called Looking from Within. And we are reading just the passages. It's a compilation from the words of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And it's basically, how we live life from outside. We just think this is it and outer is what is the truth. But this one, in this compilation, they are telling us how to look, how to live from within. Yeah, so we are just on the first chapter. I don't think you will need to know any background more than that. We are reading about attitude that, and it's saying that the circumstances, our outer circumstances, they don't really matter. It's just about the attitude we have, which decides what we take and how we take it. So,
Thank you, Tar.
thank you. So I'm not too sure where we left. I have a feeling that yeah. So I think we have read this paragraph, and this one was the second half we had not discussed yet. I could be wrong though, but yeah. So we'll just take a overlap. We'll read the full thing, and then whatever we have any reflections on or something, we'll discuss. So Jagan, do you remember that whether we finished this paragraph or we had not? I th- Actually doesn't matter. It's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I think we can just take an overlap. So whoever is ready, if they can just read these two paragraphs, maybe pause when we read this one, and then we take the other one. This one, I'm sure we had reflected on last.
So I can read it. Do you want me to start from the next paragraph?
You can please start from there are.
Of Rana. There are very many things one does and about which one is not in the habit of thinking beforehand. When the circumstance comes, one obeys it, so to say. And indeed, these things, like almost everything one does in life, are not important in themselves. The only thing that matters is the attitude with which they are done. The fact that you do something because that action is present there before you for one reason or another, and that you are, so to say, always obliged to act as long as you are in the outer life. All this has a certain importance from the point of view of the management of life, if these acts are liable to have far reaching consequences in life, as for example, getting married or going to live in one place or another or taking up one occupation or another. These things are generally considered important, and they are so to a certain extent. But even for them, from the point of view of yoga, everything depends much more on the attitude one takes than on the thing itself. And so, above all, for all the very small actions of daily life, the importance is reduced to a minimum. Should I continue?
We'll just take a small pause here. Are there any questions, reflections, although we had taken up last time? But yeah, just that the small things that we keep occupied with, the decisions that appear to be really big, they really don't matter. But the downside is that we are so engrossed in these small decisions that we forget the big things, or we are not able to give importance to what really matters. So if there's any reflection on this, we can take it. Otherwise, we'll go to the next one. Yeah, Jagan,
I
please,
Yes.
please. Yeah. Yeah, Vasu, did you have anything to say? Sorry, did you unmute?
No, I'm just waiting for Jagan to read the next paragraph.
Okay, thank you.
One may try to find out what is the truest thing to do, but it is not by a mental discussion or a mental problem that these things can be resolved. It is, in fact, by an inner attitude which creates an atmosphere of harmony, progressive harmony, in which one does will necessarily, in which all one does will necessarily be the best thing that could be done in those particular circumstances. And the ideal would be an attitude complete enough for the action to be spontaneous, dictated by something other than an outer reason. I will read that one more time. And the ideal would be an attitude complete enough for the action to be spontaneous, dictated by something other than an outer reason. But that is an ideal for which one must aspire and which one can realize after some time. Till then, to take care always to keep the true attitude, the true aspiration is much more important than to decide whether one will do gymnastic marching or not, and whether one will go to a certain class or not, because these things have no real importance in themselves. They have only an altogether relative importance. The only important thing is just to keep the true orientation in one's aspiration and a living will for progress. The mother.
Thank you. This is quite contradictory to how we usually live life, thinking that my mind is the most superior thing that I have, falsely assuming that I'm a very intelligent person and I've got it all sorted out. So here it, and we have been, reading this again and again, that how the brain has a limit beyond which it cannot understand. And it is a tool that is used for reasoning and just that. But here, when we are saying finding the truest thing, I think what it's trying to say is, and of course, please reflect if you feel this is wrong or if you have other things, of course, to add, that one may try to find out what is the truest thing to do, but it is not by a mental discussion or a mental problem that these things can be resolved. Like truth is not a formula, perfection is not a formula. When I read, say, Rumi or Khalil Gibran or the words of any master and mystic, they might be really irrational. And yet there is something in me which resonates. And I think, especially after we have done a lot, fallen a lot, achieved a lot, and yet when we find that void inside of us, we wonder what went wrong, because a lot of planning, a lot of mirroring, a lot of following advice, doing the right thing has gone into my everything, and yet I have that hollowness, that emptiness, or that incompleteness, or as if something is missing. So maybe recognizing and accepting that the mind can do only so much, and there is things beyond that. So one may try to find out what is the truest thing to do, but it is not by a mental discussion or a mental problem that these things can be resolved. It is in fact by an inner attitude which creates an atmosphere of harmony, progressive harmony, in which all one does will necessarily be the best thing that could be done in those particular circumstances. We plan, we do this, we have, conversations in our head that if that person says this, this is what I'll say, this is what I should have said last time, and yet we see it doesn't really add up to something. And there are things which, when they happen and there is some peace inside, when I don't react, I respond. Something a lot of time just happens through me if I let it. And it is being said that if it happens in an atmosphere of inner harmony, it could be the best thing that could be done in that particular circumstances. So it's kind of is telling us nothing really needs to be planned. But then what will our mind do, right? Because that's what we do half of the time. But yeah, anything before we move further?
Ma'am, can I request you to read this passage again?
Yeah, the highlighted one, just that's not.
Yeah, from one May straight
Yeah,
until the end
absolutely.
of
Yeah.
my life.
The mother is saying that one may try to find out what is the truest thing to do, but it is not by a mental discussion or a mental problem that these things can be resolved. It is in fact by an inner attitude which creates an atmosphere of harmony, progressive harmony, in which all one does will necessarily be the best thing that could be done in those particular circumstances. So it is a bit tricky. It's not very clear cut. But just to reiterate, the thing we are talking about, coming from the last para, is not the regular things that we are doing on a day-to-day basis, right? It's said that the things that appear so big, like getting married, going to live in one place or another, taking up one occupation over the other, these are considered really important, but they are so to a certain extent. But even for them, from the point of view of yoga, everything depends much more on the attitude one takes than on the thing itself. And so, above all, for all the very small actions of daily life, the importance is reduced to a minimum. So, things that we have considered really big that our lives have been revolving around, it is being said that they really don't matter that much. But one must try, one may try to find out what is the truest thing to do. But for the truth, again and again, it is said, I have in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, in the text of Sri Aurobindo and Mother, that truth cannot be defined. It cannot be held. It cannot be like, this is it, right? And hence, I'm quite sure we've all heard of it. The basic principle of neti neti, which is practiced in the Vedas, that when, say a Shishya, that's how kind of the dialogues take place in the Upanishad, is asking that what is truth? So he's being told that truth cannot be defined, because if I define it, it will be limited. It's not possible for a limited thing to hold the unlimited, right? Like if there is, no matter how big there is a vessel, but if it's limited, it cannot hold unlimited things. Today my child was asking Alexa that, Alexa, what is the biggest number? And Alexa said that there is no one biggest number, because we can always add one to any number we choose, right? It's a very simple thing. So just like that, that when something is omnipresent, omniscient, everywhere, and truth is defined as something which is true in all circumstances, in all times. It was true in the past, it's true in the future, it's true right now. Akartya, something that cannot be negated. So, me being divisive, limited, I cannot define or say the truth, but I can live the truth, is what is said. So, I can be it, but I cannot know it, I cannot define it. So, I mean, the concept of neti neti, since I brought it up, although we don't need to go there, is that it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. My ideas, my concept, I keep looking at one thing, then the other, and keep negating it. So the guru says to his Shishya that through the principle of neti neti, ye bhi neti neti means not this, not this, not this, not this. You might arrive at what truth is, but it cannot be defined. So, with all this neti neti, we get sharpened, right? And we stop accepting ourselves as the superior being who knows everything. When you are taking a thing and then you are saying, okay, this looks okay, let me look into it. Okay, not this, not this, not this. So I forgot what was the reference. Yeah, the truth, basically. So one may find out when one is done or a bit fed up or disgusted or bored with the everyday things that I think so much nothing turns out. But it is not a mental discussion because it is above the mind, or a mental problem that these things can be resolved. It is in fact by an inner attitude which creates an atmosphere of harmony. Harmony is that everything is in, I don't know, what word to use, harmony with each other, right? Resonance with each other. There's no fighting going on. So it's saying inner harmony, right? There's an inner attitude which creates an atmosphere of harmony. And I think it's very important. And thank you for asking me to read it again. Progressive harmony. We might think that harmony is also a point, something to be achieved. But when we say progressive, it means there is always this scope of being more, right? Being more harmonious, being more right. You know how, because my truths, my rights, my perfections, my surrender is always relative. But I can increase the relative with a relative degree to a relative degree. So if my say aim is to have some peace, like some harmony, inner harmony, then a lot of things which cause unrest will themselves start dropping. You know, like they say that when the seasons change, the leaves drop, right? There's no stress, there is no pushing, pulling. It's just a simple let go. So when I'm in the right atmosphere inside, it creates an atmosphere of harmony, progressive harmony, in which all one does will necessarily be the best thing that could be done in those particular circumstances. That the mind will not agree to this because he has ruled for so long, right? Everything has to be well thought. We like to make lists, positive, negatives, ye karu, wo karu, our lives have been led that way. So if somebody tells us, कि अरे उसकी तो जरूरत ही नहीं है, just be fine, be harmonious, be in resonance. It feels wishy-washy, like say when, I don't know, again, like I was talking about like Khalil Gibran or Rumi, that when he says, why are you dancing? Sorry. So when he is saying that, I don't know, anything that we can use, any of the words that out beyond the ideas of right doings and wrong doings, I'll meet you there. The mind cannot comprehend that much, but there's something in me which feels it and finds it beautiful. So when one is able to be in that space of have an attitude which creates an atmosphere of harmony, the best thing would be done in that particular circumstance. Yes, I'll stop here and writing reflections, comments. Yeah.
You
So,
know,
yeah, sorry, Jagan, I didn't see you.
no problem. Going through this, the passage before this, it says, you know, considering marriage, considering an occupation, or these things are held at a higher value. Um, Growing up, there was always a plan. It was always a plan. You know, engineering, where design engineering का job, then something else, then you know जो भी मैं चाहता था, तो वो ना कुछ कुछ मिले, कुछ कुछ नहीं मिला, लेकिन in that progress, the thing that I always felt missing is my inner peace. There was always an instability of mind. Always, I could not sleep. I couldn't, you know, I would look at beautiful birds and trees, and in my head, कल का interview क्या होगा? And now reading through this, I wish I maybe my father would have read that before, just didn't go inside my head. But I just wonder that what level of faith should I have in in the mother, that whatever you give me, if I'm washing dishes today, I'm still at inner peace, and I'm not planning anything. Tomorrow I do something else, and that comes up afterwards, and I'm not planning anything, but I still have inner peace. Um, it is so easy to read and to think. For me to think is, oh yeah, this is what I'm going to do moving forward, and it is so difficult to be in that state and to to you know to progress, to have that progress in harmony. um, the point I wanted to say is, as long as I'm in a comfortable zone, when I'm in my house, comfortably sitting, working from home and all that, it is easy that, oh, you know what, I am in harmony. This is, I know I'm accepting whatever mother is giving to me. But what kind of an attitude should one have that tomorrow I have nothing, I become homeless, and I'm still in the same state of happiness, man? What kind of an attitude should I have? uh, in any advice or any reflections, please?
Now, Jagan, it's like that when you look at a small child, right? Especially maybe 2 year, 3 year, 4 year old. You know, some days back, somebody had forwarded, those shorts people forward. So usme there was this guy with a mic asking people, like couples, like husband, wife, and a child, wherever they were in a mall or something, that who do you love, mama or daddy? So like one child, two child, three child, four child, five child, everybody said mama, 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 mama. And then he asked the sixth one, who do you try? He said mama. He said, you don't like papa? He said, no, I like papa. So he said, would you be willing to trade your daddy for Spider-Man? He said, yes, absolutely. It's so, I mean, it's just, I mean, not relevant to this discussion, but, when you ask a child that, how do you trust your mother? He would look at you that what a stupid question it is, right? How do I not trust her? Or who do I trust if not her? Right? So I think it's just that we have come very far from home, right? We have grown up too much. So I think, how, again, this is said in a lot of ancient texts that when a child is born, first the world teaches it that, see, this is what your name is. This is your chacha, this is your mama, this is your dada, this is your father, right? We teach, see, these are your associations, this is the world. And then, if he is lucky, life teaches him how to unlearn what all has been taught to him so that he can return and be just him. No, nothing, 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 nothing. Right? So, again, whoever we believe in, right? Like, whoever we believe in, whoever, whatever form of God or divine we resonate with most, to have that state that if something is being done to me or given to me, or if I have been put in a specific situation, this has to be for my growth, for my best. There is no other possibility. Right? There is no other possibility. But if it hurts, or if it looks hard, or if it looks unfair, then just telling oneself that I must be looking at it in a wrong way. Because, see, honestly, I don't know what's good for me, what's bad for me, right? Because I, again, being a limited person, can just see this much. My mind can just see, अगर उसके पास 100 books हैं जो उसने पढ़ी, वो उसी में से लॉजिक्स निकाल के देख सकता है ना. It cannot think beyond what it can see. But when I look back 20 years back, 25 years back, 2 years back, 2 months back, there are things which might have appeared that, oh my God, what will this lead to? And what it led to was beautiful. And there are things which happened to me which I felt was, wow, God is so kind and this feels like a miracle. And when I look back, I see that, uske bina better rehta. This is the truth. So just I think किसी और पे विश्वास के लिए अपने पे विश्वास उठना बहुत जरूरी है ना? तो जब तक मेरा विश्वास खुद पे है कि मैं अपना देख लूंगा, मैं अपना बहुत अच्छा कर रहा हूं, तब तक वाई विल आई बी विलिंग to actually say that मैं बेवकूफ हूँ, not saying us to say that, just making a point, but if we can say that would be good. And that's it, right? Like, so again, you're asking me how when you want a mental answer, right? But it doesn't have a I mean, this is the only mental answer I can think of. But how does one develop faith? It's it just develops, right? You want more of it. You see you're not much without it. And it's a happening with your observations, mindfulness, your aspiration. Yes, please.
No, you already answered the question rather
Oh,
beautifully. That my answer is I've grown up too much. Yeah, that's what I'm going to keep in mind for the rest of my life. I've grown up too much. It's time to unlearn and to become a child again.
mm.
Yeah, that attitude. Yeah, I got my answer. Thank you.
When you read it, there was something, when you asked it, there was something else that came to me. I will share that. But any reflections or anything from anybody, just taking a pause before I move. Hi, Ritu, good morning. So yeah, there's this blog I came across some time back, and there was this thing that I read in this, and I keep going back to it. I keep seeing this again and again. So if anybody is willing, they can read this and we can maybe reflect on it before we move on with, with the text.
I can read.
Please, thank you.
Sri Aurobindo once said, there is a tendency in modern times to depreciate the value of the beautiful and overstress the value of the useful. In India, where we have been cut off by a mercenary and soulless education from all our ancient roots of culture and tradition, it's corrected only by the stress of imagination, emotion, and spiritual delicacy, submerged but not yet destroyed in the temperament of the people.
Yes, thank you. So, just especially the first sentence is what keeps hitting me again and again, and I see it so much around me, and I keep looking for it in me, and I keep finding it and throwing it out. That there is a tendency in modern times to depreciate the value of the beautiful and overstress the value of the useful. My child draws a beautiful painting. I don't sit and awe at the beauty of the mind or the small hands that created it. But I maybe start wondering that, oh, he seems to have, some talent. Let me put him in an art class and see where that goes. Or when I'm attending something or participating something or doing something which gives me delight, joy, in which I feel, oh my God, wow. The world asks me, but what are you getting out of it? If I have a meeting which is an official meeting, everybody is very courteous. Everybody is very, you have your call, you take your call. Even if there are 20 relatives and they know कि office का call है, they're all very respectful that हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. But if I have to attend something, say on the Vedas or the Upanishads, just because they feel beautiful or I feel they are beneficial to me, doubts are raised, comments are made. But ये क्या बात हुई? बेकार का काम है, कुछ नहीं मिल रहा, paid नहीं है. So just this that if I'm aware of it, and the weirdest thing is that from all the things that I find useful, a lot of times what I'm looking for eventually is contentment, is joy, is beauty. But if something or someone is giving it to me directly, I feel ki nahi, nahi. No, something like, thank God it's Friday, right? The concept of it. Or, our ads where they say that you deserve it, you are worth it. कि पहले करो, तुम कुछ हो, पहले वर्क करो पूरा वीक एंड देन यू डिजर्व अ फ्राइडे इन विच यू कैन हैव दैट चिल्ड बियर एंड गो आउट और व्हाटएवर. It has to be earned. Happiness has to be earned. So I find that pretty amazing, although it didn't directly relate to what you were asking. But this, again, that usefulness and beauty, I think, once that gets shifted in me, a lot of my life decisions and engagements, they change, because there is a lot of beauty in beauty and it's addictive. Right? Anything on this or the comment or the quote?
That was very true. I think when Arav is doing something, I'm like, why are you wasting time? क्या कर रहा है? इससे क्या होगा? But that's true. He's like, oh well, and he's really bad at drawing, but he wants to draw, right? And it's like, एक घंटा गया. But I think, yeah, you're right. That gives him happiness, right? So let it be. So, but that's very true.
When I was a child, like when somebody used to ask me, I mean, my earliest memories of this question, obviously, and if it was asked a lot of time, कि बड़े होके क्या बनोगे? So I would say that, I will become a painter. But somehow I loved the paintings that I saw and I was really bad at them, but that didn't matter to me. But it was just like I'll become a painter. And people, they just ask questions from kids and they just don't even listen. And they said, ha, ha, very good, very good. But one day a person stopped and they said, are you good at it? And I was like, no. And then they were like, फिर कैसे बनोगे? And that was the last time I answered that question with I'll become a painter, because he had instilled reason into my being कि अच्छा पेंटर बनने के लिए पेंटिंग अच्छी होनी चाहिए, which is a very logical thing. But it kind of took a lot of beauty from me, right? Like I kind of then just digressed and did, and I'm not saying I'm good at painting or I would have become a painter. That's not the point. But how we, with our logical minds and high intellect, we take a lot of beauty. And that is why when when we look at children, they are so full of wonder, right? So odd, so happy about something. Everything is an exploration. And yet I have lost that exploration most of the times. And we want, and then हम कोशिश करते हैं कि हम उनको सिखाएं, हम उनको रास्ता दिखाएं, हमको उनको बनाना है, मतलब, and we don't see कि भैया तुम सीख लो. So just that dynamics or this fight that we deal with, it's very interesting. And okay. So going back to what we were reading. So Ritu, just a recap, we are still on chapter 1 only and we are reading about attitude. So you haven't missed much. You weren't here, you were traveling last time.
Okay.
Okay, so we can take this part now. And the ideal would be an attitude complete enough for the action to be spontaneous, dictated by something other than an outer reason. Just reading that again, the ideal would be an attitude complete enough for the action to be spontaneous, dictated by something other than an outer reason, but that is an ideal for which one must aspire and which one can realize after some time. So it might not be my immediate possibility, but just even this idea that the ideal reaction, the ideal response would be an attitude complete enough for the action to be spontaneous. No planning, no background, and dictated by something other than an outer reason. I'm sure that a lot of us would have had this experience that you have thought about something again and again, weighing here and there, and everything seems to be bending towards one thing, and yet something you end up doing something absolutely radical or different because it felt choiceless. So yeah, so just that, just remembering those things, recalling those things. And I think it was Mother, I think, who said that, we have all had special experiences. We have had those glimpses. But we keep forgetting. We keep saying that, don't give it importance. But when we start giving those things importance, that, उस time भी तो किया था ना, इतना अच्छा हुआ था. But we don't trust it. We don't have faith in it. But even knowing this or giving it a chance, maybe if we are able to, that would be great. Just give me 1 second. So till I am ready to reach that state where I can truly believe that yes, whatever the best would be will happen. Till then, to take care always, to keep the true attitude, the true aspiration is much more important than to decide whether one will do gymnastic, marching, or not, and whether one will or not, and whether one will go to a certain class or not. So till I am able to reach this ideal state where I know that the right action will happen automatically, till then, if I have a right attitude, true attitude towards the truth, towards harmony, towards peace, aspiration is what I want, right? What I would want in me, what I aspire for. So true aspiration is much more important than to decide whether one will. Again, the small things that appear to be big that I am involved with, it's not that important as much as where I am going towards. We had discussed this quite a lot last time. I don't know if we already have done it. But because these things have no real importance in themselves, they have only an altogether relative importance. The only important thing is just to keep the true orientation in one's aspiration and a living will for progress. So just reading this again, the only important thing is just to keep the true orientation in one's aspiration and a living will for progress. I'm doing this, I'm choosing this, I'm choosing that, but what am I walking towards? And what I am choosing moment to moment, day to day, hour to hour, is it taking me towards or away from what I'm aspiring to become, what I feel my progress is? So just keeping that orientation, checking within. Yeah. So anything I have a feeling we have done it, but yeah, so we would be going to the right spirit, but please, if anything, to share. So if anybody's willing, they can unmute and read this, otherwise. Okay. So Gagan, you were reading?
No, ma'am, you can read it.
The right spirit aspire, concentrate in the right spirit, and whatever the difficulties, you are sure to attain the aim you have put before you. Sri Aurobindo, Basis of Yoga. So aspire, concentrate in the right spirit, and whatever the difficulties, you are sure to attain the aim you have put before you. Yes, Aditi, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
I think this, if I actually truly believe this, that yes, I am sure to attain the aim I have put myself, put before myself, that is really motivating and it's a good start. So that's the right spirit. So here in this thing, the question is being asked is, what is the right spirit? Because it says aspire, concentrate in the right spirit. So Sri Aurobindo, okay, the mother answers that it depends on the case. The right spirit is the will to perfect oneself or the will to be calm, or it depends, you see, on the circumstances. It means that in each circumstance, there is a spirit which is the suitable spirit, the one you ought to have, the attitude you must inwardly take. It depends on the case. Just pausing here. So, like it said, it's not a formula. So, mother is saying the right spirit depends on the case. The right spirit is the will to perfect oneself or the will to be calm. Or it depends, you see, on the circumstance, right? कि क्या ठीक है, क्या हित में है. It cannot just be one answer. It would depend on the situation, the circumstances, the challenges that one is with. In different cases, it could be different, but it means that in each circumstance, there is a spirit which is the suitable spirit, the one you ought to have, the attitude you must inwardly take. It depends on the case. And we all know, a lot of time we are doing something, behaving in a certain way, shouting or fighting, and yet there is a voice which is saying that, bas kar. But we usually just transcend that and continue with our old patterns to just following that inner dictate, trying to listen to that voice, and maybe things would change, and not maybe they would. So if there's anything, please unmute anytime.
Uh, I'd say perfection, this word of perfection, is very subjective. Because if we use perfect, the word is perfect, is there something really as perfection? And then it could potentially lead to a lot of frustration. because you'd always be like, I can never attain perfection. What does it mean to be perfect? And so, in that pursuit, I'm not too sure. I would say, like, I can go with the calm or on the circumstances where it's elaborated further, right? In the sentence, just the word perfect sometimes can be a little bit demoralizing or demotivating because you're like, okay, is this perfect? What does perfection mean? Right? And by which parameter am I defining perfection? By the society, by myself? Um, that's my thought on that word perfect.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vasu. That's a beautiful thing to reflect on. And here it is being said to perfect oneself. So, it's like, I think I might have shared it before that, in my child's school in India, when we went for an orientation, there were students from high school that were being called, and, the parents of the play group and all were just asked if you have any questions, you could ask them. They were there in the orientation, big hall, mic. So, one of the parents, like the school in question, the name was Shikshantar, was ranked second in Gurgaon, and the number one school was Sri Ram. So a parent asked that, compared to a child of Sri Ram, where do you see yourself? And the child looked surprised, and when he answered, he said, but why would I look at a child of Sri Ram? I only look at myself and how I can better myself. My only competition is with myself. Like, if what I did yesterday, am I doing it better today? And I aspire to do better tomorrow. When Auroville, I don't know if you're familiar with Auroville, it's a city that Mother had created near Pondicherry. So it is a representation of a lot of religions, cultures, people from different countries coming there and living together. So I think maybe it was the Russians, I don't know who exactly, who said that, but we don't believe in a God, right? We don't believe in divine. And your basis is divine. So mother had said, in just paraphrasing, she had answered beautifully that if you don't believe in the divine, do you believe in perfection? That it is something that one can come, because it's not a point like you said. So it's like I can always do better than this. I can always do better than this. Lot of times when world records get broken, it's very amazing that how, it's like when they are saying the commentary that it felt that that was the highest and the fastest and the topmost, and oh my God, that too has broken, right? Has been broken. When we look at, say, when we go to, say, Circus du Soleil or any good gymnastics we see, and the way the body is moving, twisting, turning, it feels impossible that a human body can do it, right? So just that it's a state which is a constantly progressive state. And if I am constantly aspiring to be more better, more perfect, yeah, so progression. So when I'm aspiring for perfection, that's what I am talking about, that it would be progressive. I have more, whatever I am today. If I'm peaceful, I can be more peaceful. If I can feel beauty, I'll feel more beauty. So that is what is meant by perfection here, that it's not a point. It's not, you cannot be just sitting there in inertia. It's a constant aspiration of progressing myself, transforming myself, improving myself to be better than what I currently am. But I can see absolutely what you meant, and that wasn't. I mean, when you read more work from words of Aurobindo and the mother, perfection is a very high trait and constantly. Yes, please.
Yes, thank you for explaining that really well. That's exactly the point. Is like, are we better than yesterday? then I can say I'm on the progressive path. To have be like become perfect, to me, it's almost like surreal. It's like almost like, can we ever achieve perfection? I think that's the solidity we talked about in the other study circle, right? Like it takes so much of discipline. So I think that's just the next level. And also it sort of, steers you towards always looking forward or aspiring towards something, because, and not a relentless pursuit towards nothing, something that you can just sort of look back and say, hey, I'm better than what I was yesterday. So I think that's where I was. But thank you for explaining that so well.
Thank you. There's an example here. So it is said that, for example, you see, as soon as one feels a wave of physical disequilibrium, of ill health coming, well, to concentrate in the right spirit is to concentrate in an inner calm, a trust in the divine grace, and a will to remain in physical equilibrium and good health. This is the right spirit. So again, Mother is giving examples to elaborate it. That if one is feeling that, okay, something is attacking physically, a cold is coming, a cough is coming, one is feeling feverish or anything, to so in that case, the right spirit would be to concentrate in an inner calm, a trust in a divine grace, and a will to remain in physical equilibrium and good health. That I am healthy, everything is well. And then a lot of times we see it just passes us. That is example one. And the second, Mother says, this is the right spirit. In another case, one may feel a wave of anger or a fit of temper coming from outside. Then one should withdraw into an inner calm, a detachment from superficial things, with a will to express only what comes from above, and always be submissive to the divine will. This is this right spirit. So I mistake that the anger comes from within me. It is me who is being angry. But it says, if we look at it, we recognize that the anger, the wave comes from outside. So if I can detach at that point, which is very difficult, but if one can stabilize oneself into an inner calm, and one can only do that when one is doing it throughout the day in all the pockets that we get. If I'm stabilizing myself, if I am just sitting with myself, withdrawing myself in, then I'll be able to detach from superficial things when needed, with the will to express that, okay, this is attacking me. I want to attack back, but let me just be submissive to the divine will. They say that a lot of times they say that if Mother or say the divine was standing right in front of you, how would you react? Right? You must react the same way as if they are there, and they are there. There's this funny example, I know I've shared it before. Once, I was having a very strong argument with somebody, and it was just like, it was just pretty strong for me. And where I was standing, like I was standing, the person was in front of me, and Mother's picture right behind me was in my line of vision. That when I was looking at the person, I was also looking at the picture. So he was saying something, I wanted to say something, I couldn't. He said something, again, I wanted to say something, I couldn't. And then he said something again, and I was like, wait a second. I turned the picture, and then I was like, so it's just funny that we need these reminders. And of course, the divine is everywhere in every cell of my body, and yet but whatever works, like initially, if I need a picture to not be able to say it, let me put 50 pictures in my house, right? कि गलत निकले ही ना. But yeah, so just those reminders, and lot of pictures, a lot of people do That's the reason put a lot of reminders, pictures, quotes. What is the divine will? Knowing that He's everywhere, and acting in the right spirit. And in each case, it is something like that. So naturally, it always comes back to the same thing, that one must remember the divine and put oneself at his service and will what he wills. Especially in integral yoga, this is, really the first, one of the first things one here is, this quote that may thy will be done and not mine. If I'm just always, like even Jagan, the question that he had asked, that if I'm trusting something bigger, if I'm having faith in something bigger, then these things start becoming my natural responses, right? I don't have to then ask how, why, but is this. And yet, I mean, like everything is a process, this too is a process. So that when I start having that aspiration, that aim, that concentration, that focus, so in each case, it is something like that. Naturally, it always comes back to the same thing, that one must remember that the divine and put oneself at his service and will what he will. It appears that they're talking really big things and lot of dimensions would be needed to change for this, but a journey begins with a single step. Whenever I am able to value peace more than my ego, whenever I'm able to hold back when I wanted to lash out, when I'm able to overcome something which could have taken months, I do it in, I don't know, 2 hours, 2 minutes. It makes me stronger. It's like, how it said that exercising the muscle, making it stronger. So the inner muscles, the inner strength also need to be exercised. So I don't know if we should finish this, if there's time, or should we end? Jagan, were you saying something? I don't know if you were answering.
Yeah, ma'am. You know, yesterday I was listening to this podcast. It's the Ranveer show. His the YouTube channel is Beer Biceps. But here he actually talks to different people who are a master in something, about spirits, about God, about everything. And there is this person Nandi. His last name is Nandi. I forgot his name, but he tells that you know um, during during the Ramayana, in the Mahabharata, no, when the Munis were doing yagnas, right? The demons would come and try to disturb the yagna. So he tells that the reason the demons do it is because that is their profession, to spoil a yagna. So they are doing their job very well, and the munis are also doing the job very well. So growing up, I always thought that the demon or a negative thing will always have a form, because that's what they showed in TV. But he was explaining a couple of examples that when someone is trying to walk the right path, there are so many obstructions that come in. Like he tells that there was an instance that irritated me, which I would never be irritated about, but somehow that came into me. And now after that, and he was also telling about he was also telling about Sri Aurobindo, how Sri Aurobindo said that Hitler was actually possessed by an asura, based on his capacity The asura possessed him, and through him it made him its instrument. After that, no, what happened is I started recollecting the things that happened in the past. I think in the last, since I started listening to the session since September, and every time I try to lift my consciousness a little above the petty human being that I am normally, and then something comes and I snap, and I feel myself that I've again stepped down in my consciousness. And now, it's actually becoming easier for me to recognize them. I see them as a demon who is trying to spoil my yagna. I try to meditate, then somebody irks me. I try to, uh, I try to do, I try to say that, what, I'm going to be calm, and then my housemate says, "Aaj no cleaning ki bari teri hai," even though I do it all the time. And I get irritated. Or my mom, she's confused on the phone. The same thing. She's so confused. So these are the demons. Actually, these are not them, or this is not my friend. These are the demons that are, or the negative entities that are trying to bring down my consciousness. And when I started looking at it that way, now I'm very interested in this battle. That अभी आओ देखेंगे अभी क्या होगा. हारूंगा जीतूंगा वो आई डोंट नो, बट अभी पता है कि क्या हो रहा है. उसका उसका कोई फॉर्म नहीं होता. वो अलग अलग, जैसे कि alcohol is a form of a demon to me now. So in the same way, so all these come in. So um, it's just easy for me now to understand what is coming.
Thank you for sharing. It's a beautiful visual and yeah. Especially this realization that, we start with blaming the world, right? I couldn't do this because of that, I couldn't do that, or he's the one who irritates me, or she's the one who makes me angry. And then we realize you're sitting down, you said, focus. And then there's an outside thing. But if the outside is not there, even the inside creates havoc, right? More than the outside ever can. So just recognizing that a lot of demons are inside that I need to either fight or just laugh at or ignore and continue, yeah, with the journey. There's a book, again a compilation by A.S. Dalal. We can take it up later, but if you want to read it, it's called The Hidden Forces. It's really nice. I will see if I can find a PDF for you and I'll send it to you. The Hidden Forces. So it has a lot of more details into these sort of creatures that, have work like this or do that to get responses, and they are having fun while we are shouting and screaming, hiding things, and then we are looking for them. So, yeah, it's very interesting. And one thing was very interesting, it's like, I don't know if you guys, you must have noticed, कभी कभी हम ऐसे बोलते हैं ना कि अरे बहुत दिन हो गए वो नहीं हुआ, ये बहुत दिन हो गए यार मैं बीमार नहीं पड़ा, बहुत दिन हो गए मुझे गुस्सा नहीं आया, समथिंग लाइक दिस. So it was said that there are some creatures that listen to it and take it in writing, that if you don't offer it immediately once you say it, that thing will resurface. Because they say, "अच्छा नहीं हुआ ये लो, ले लो अभी फिर से ले लो." So I thought that was like, oh my god, because in life I'd experienced it so many times कि बस बोला था, I was grateful कि नहीं हुआ फिर क्यों हो रहा है. So yes, Shagun, please.
No, ma'am. Even Matri Mandir, no, Aurobindo, uh, surrounding Auroville, there are so many small Tamil Nadu villages, Pondicherry villages, and it is said that to not walk in Auroville after 8 o'clock because of some recent. There were so many things going on, and so many issues, and if someone can step out of Auroville around in the middle of the night, the at least I felt, um, even in Pondicherry near the dining hall and everything, I felt a sense of threat. I was afraid. The auto walas were looking very Uh, I was scared of them, and I would ask my father that, this is such a powerful place, and why, like, how can they even, you know, roam around this place? And my dad told me that mother said, wherever there is a wherever there is Shakti, there are always adverse forces trying to impede. Um, just being able to relate it to the regular things of life, in itself is very beautiful. But yeah.
I was actually planning to go and visit or live in Auroville for a minute. But now, Jagan, that you have scared the daylights out of me, I'm not too sure whether.
No, it's very rare, but also, it doesn't. Auroville is. I know I am not even a suitable guy to express how surreal it feels. So yeah, you should go if you can. It is absolutely out of the world.
Yes, thank you. I
Like,
do intend to, regardless.
yeah, if you can, like, if you can go inside the Matri Mandir also, it is very beautiful. I've never, I think I've been there when I was a kid. I was like 3 years old. They were constructing it. That's why they allowed me. After that, they would not allow me as a kid. And after that, I didn't get a chance. So we can even go inside. No, it is, yeah, beautiful.
Sure, thank you. I'll keep that in mind. Has everybody here in the group visited Auroville?
Yeah, I have, and I know Ritu has. Deepa, I don't think. Deepa, have you been?
No, I haven't
Deepa,
been.
maybe we both can make a trip to Auroville
Let take us
till the time
also.
I gather the guts to.
Mm.
Except that I don't go out in the evenings. Ataru knows.
Mm. So you're
But I
already
think
told it.
it all comes down to the fact that if you believe in yourself, and if you believe in your strength, then really, and if your faith and belief takes you that far, nothing really can affect you.
For
That's
sure. I
all I
was
can
just kidding.
say. No, I get it, but yeah, but in terms of what Jagan said, I guess Jagan was much younger then, and now he has a lot more faith, so it will hold him in good stead.
I had actually read something. This is a book called Death, Dying and Beyond. Something really beautiful. I think it was here. I'll try to find it. And it was talking about light, darkness, good forces, bad forces. And somehow it ended with that in the depths of the darkness, also he is sitting. You know how it said that as above, so below. You can go through the heavens or through the hells and you'll reach the same thing. You'll go through light or the darkness. So darkness is not something to be scared of at all. It is true that there would be a presence, and yet someone who's omnipresent, how can he too not be there, right? Like, so just, and I will, it was really beautiful. Okay, I'm scared, I'm fearful, I'm this. And then I see that, oh my God, in the depths of the darkness, also he's sitting. Like, what a beautiful visual. Yeah. So
And
we,
I think just a small point before we close. I think a lot of times this darkness also is just, as we know, I mean, we all have a certain element, but maybe certain situations sometimes just bring out the worst, and maybe that darkness within us only becomes bigger. So instead of really being scared of the darkness outside, just make sure that the darkness within you is not given that opportunity to grow.
yeah, very beautiful, Deepa, right. So we'll be ending here today. So we are reading the passage, The Right Spirit, and we'll just take a overlap, but mostly we'll be reflecting from. But in one case, you may want the calm. So before we end, just taking a few moments just for gratitude for the light that we have, the company, the beauty that one gets by reading these things together, the greater understanding, and praying and aspiring that the dawning, the practical also, I'm able to implement so as to make a practical change in my everyday. And these are not just beautiful words, but become my life. So praying that this becomes the truth, the higher becomes the truth for all of us. Maybe all start aspiring for greater and greater truth so that the darkness can left behind and be left behind. Praying for all beings to be well and happy, truly well, truly happy and at peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you.